personality of this man?
So I was going out as a punk. You know, I was in high school still, and I was lucky because Roman gave me access to the club, you know, at an early age. And in a way, it kind of made me cool in my circle of friends because I was a 15, 16-year-old kid that had access to what was the hottest clubs at the time.
Right.
So they're like, yo, we want to be down with him. And it had nothing to do with my personality. It's just all default that I had access to.
You had
these
the
clubs.
keys.
Yeah,
You had the
totally.
keys. Yeah.
And, you know, Roman saw that I was coming out with, like, these really cute Coral Gables girls that were all rich and dressed up and went to Carrollton and Lords and whatever. And he's like,
Market.
He's like, you're with me. He goes, I got you.
Right.
And we were really close, you know, our families were very close. And he's like, I want you to work for me. You just got to make it to 18. And I was like, the way that I'm drinking, I don't know if I will. But sure enough, when I turned 18, oh, sorry. No, fuck that. When I was 16, he gave me a high school night at his club in downtown, which was the living room.
Wow.
And he tried to redo the living room on the beach and tried to do one in downtown next to Space. So I had
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it was only like open for like a year.
Okay.
And he gave me a high school night in the summer.
Wow.
And I killed it.
With no alcohol though, right?
No drink, and he hated it. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, the bar did $50. And I was like, what? We can't drink. And funny enough, I was sneaking in alcohol. Yeah, that's my building going. Hello? Yeah, you got it.
This explains Jason.
So funny enough, the guys Raul was working for were working with Roman, and they promoted Roman's clubs. And Roman made one of them, Angel, which was Bill's partner, in charge of dealing with us. Because like, you got to deal with these high school idiots. And sure enough, the first night I snuck in like 6 bottles of alcohol, and I was pouring my homies drinks because we technically couldn't buy drinks. And they caught me, and I got suspended from my own party on the first night for 2 weeks. But sure enough, we killed it. You know, like at least as far as getting people there.
Yeah.
And,
Was there a cover or something?
Yeah, it was like a $10 cover, and,
Right.
That's the only way you can make money. Is
yeah, and we split that with the club.
Right.
So for us, we were killing it. You know, we're making a few $100 as high school kids. You know,
Right.
the club wasn't very happy with us because they're like, shit, we made a few $100. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
But you know, I think Roman kind of just let us do it, and I kind of.
Well, he also in a way was investing for the future.
100%.
Everybody turns 21.
100%. He's like, he goes, I'm gonna let Jason build his little network.
Generation.
And I know in a couple years he's gonna be with me. So I did it, and I kind of solidified myself, at least in that circle of like South Miami, Coral Gables, as like the go-to guy as far as going out or being able to have access to the club. And sure enough, when I was 18, Roman gave me a job, and you know, it's a little different from Raul's story because Raul legitimately started from the bottom, and like I was lucky because I was granted access to the owner that saw potential in me and was kind of handed me the keys in a way where I was killing it for as an 18-year-old, and he was paying me very little, but again, at 18, that little bit of money went a long way.
Yeah, you got no expenses. So.
But that tells you a lot about the business. Like the business is all relationships.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you learned that at a very young age.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Yeah, and then, you know, people leaned on me. They're like, yo, Jason has access. Like, we're you going to fuck with him? And he's dependable, and he knows he's going to get us in. And I think that's kind of where I started building, like, some loyalty with a lot of people because, you know, it was, like, a consistent thing. You know, they could always hit me up, and I'd always get them in. And I built friends, and I built relationships. And I was in really cool positions and places at a really young age, you know. And like I said, Roman was on the top, you know, and he was doing things before anyone else was. And, you know, from having celebrity hosts, which wasn't really a thing, you know,
that was Mansion,
to
right?
the big
Also?
DJs. Yeah, Mansion. Yeah, so I went from Privé, Opium to, you know,
What year was
to
this?
Mansion. This is
2000.
2003.
Okay.
This is 2003. I just graduated Columbus, and I stuck with Roman for 10 years. And again, for the first half of my career with him, I loved it, you know, because I had access to what I thought was the best shit in the world, which was the nightclub.
Right.
And, you know, I was traveling, I was meeting people, but as I got older, you know, I started seeing, and I think a lot of people see in this business kind of like the end of the road or what's next. And I was getting kind of tired of the nightclub stuff. I'd been doing it for so long, and you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 nights a week, that, you know, I kind of wanted something more. And I was always kind of jealous of Raul because Raul was in our scene as far as like Smack was concerned, but he was always doing like the downtown thing, and he was always hanging with the artists, and he was always hanging with the music people, and he was really involved with like the word culture, which I think it's overused, but back then I think Raul was definitely like in the forefront of that and very involved in that. And I was like, you know, I always kicked it with him because I always loved art and I always loved music. But I was in this like fake world of nightclubs and like the high end shit and the glitz and
It was
glam.
more a beach scene.
Total beach scene.
And back then it was a really big like
it was
separation.
sparklers, champagne, but you know, and I was like Jay-Z and this one.
Velvet
and that
Rub,
one.
and you can get in, you can't get in. And
I think people watching this, like, there's gonna be people watching and listening that are not from Miami, and out of all the people up here, I'm the only one not from Miami.
it's true.
So I think people, if you're listening to the podcast and you're watching all of us talk, one key thing that you're going to need to know, and it specifically pertains to Sidebar, is that the beach scene is completely different than what we have over here on the city side.
And before it used to only be the only scene, and there was a very very few things like you know, pop life and stuff, like things that popped up here and there outside of the beach. But at one point it was just the beach, and they ran shit because it was the only place to go really.
And that's also part of the story of the bar, is that you and Raul, like you're just about to say, are occupying these two different worlds a little bit. And so
it was merging.
It's a merging of those two worlds, and now it's here at this venue.
Well, yeah. So just to kind of fast forward through that, you know, like I was kind of at the end of, I hated going to the club. You know, like I didn't want to see a sparkler. I didn't want to see a bottle. I couldn't talk to people. Like, you know, I was getting older and I wanted more. You know? So it served its purpose, and I loved it for, you know, the younger part of my professional career. But I was like, man, this shit's so fake and so crazy, and again, it's great for Miami, and it really, most people come to Miami and just know South Beach, and you know, there was this like downtown scene brewing, and Raul and a lot of you guys, you know, Pancho and stuff, were kind of on the forefront of that. So, you know, I came to see Sidebar, the space, 3.5 years ago, and coincidentally I live across the street. And I knew that people my age at the time, which I was 28, weren't going to the beach as much. You know, they were in the same boat that I was. They didn't care to go to the club. It was a hassle of parking, paying cover, getting shut down by the doorman. So I was like, you know what? Like I saw the vision of, and this is by no way saying that I'm a visionary, but I saw the vision of people saying, this is a place that I could go to that is easy. I could talk, I could chill outside, I could see live music. It's not a hassle. The doorman isn't fucking shutting me down. And the first people I automatically thought of was Raul and the Beach Fuzz crew, you know, Press and Adrian. And I was like, you know, without them, I can't have the authenticity of being, you know, on the downtown side of things, because as much as I loved it and I appreciated it and I understood it, you know,
you weren't of it.
I wasn't of it, and like you guys know, like we've all become friends, but I wasn't really running in the same circles as you guys were.
Right.
And I was like, I need Raul. I need that, you know, and I need that bar thing.
I have a question. Did you guys meet because of Tatanka or not?
No, I mean we met actually through Smack.
Okay, I thought Tatanka
but
told me once.
Tatanka and I worked together at Privé.
Okay.
And we had a great crew. Like back then.
Would Tatanka be like the beach crew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like he was like the
skater
surfer
beach
South
crew,
of Fifth crew. Like it was so Flip, Tatanka, and Paolo were like Press, Adrian, and Raul
On the beach. On the beach.
But
on the beach.
On a different scene, like skate scene.
They're like
that
skater,
cool.
surfer, and like they hung out with all the models, and like
Which, tangentially, is kind of how I ended up here.
really.
Yeah.
Well, even Ross.
I'll tell that story.
Ross
Well,
came through
'cause
like
of Ross.
that.
But that's how I ended up here.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Ross, like Ross 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ross and
Ross was
him.
crashing
Ross
with
is from
Tatanka.
Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a funny connection. Around
Yeah,
all
so
this.
Tatanka and I were working together. I'd go to meetings and Ross would be on the couch and he was just kind of crashing there until he kind of got his bearings. And
That's when Ross had the dreads.
No.
No. But you got to think, like, as far
He
as...
did have dreads at one point.
Yeah,
Nah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Didn't you have dreads too?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I never met you with dreads.
Yeah, but
No,
I've heard about these dreads.
Yeah.
So
I had dreads. I had dreads before Ross did.
we had like we had a pretty monster crew as far as like Dave Grumman worked for Roman at the time. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Dave Grumman, Flip, Paulo Tatanka,
Privé,
Navin that owns Wall and Drunken Dragon and Foxhole worked there. Angel, Mo, Bill, they all worked there, and all these people grew to become like pretty significant roles in nightlife,
Miami nightlife.
in Miami. Period.
Yeah.
So Roman was very good at seeking talent or seeing talent and building it up and kind of coaching people up and building them, and like all those people went to do amazing things. Imagine all of us when we worked together, you know, like Lyndon was there, and it was crazy. So anyway, I brought Press, Raul and Adrian over here, and they saw it instantly too. You know, they loved it, and I was like, cool, you know. And funny enough, Sidebar originally was only an 8-month lease, and you know, we all said, fuck it, let's do it, you know, and we banged it out, and you know, Press was here, and Nick got involved, and we banged this thing out real fucking quick, you know, like
Very fast.
I think it was 45 days we built this place.
Yeah,
I remember.
And it was like the quicker we get this open, the quicker we could potentially start making money. And we opened it, and I
think we decided we were going to do it on September 21st,
yeah,
and then we opened
October 31st.
October 31st. Yeah.
I remember the story about those bricks.
Oh yeah.
These
You
bricks.
guys went to pick them up and you got the wrong bricks.
Yeah.
wrong
Well,
what?
my friend was remodeling his house. One of my best friends, Joseph, and he had these these beautiful bricks. He was ripping off his
Joseph,
driveway.
from-
Yeah, you know Joseph.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, what are you doing with these bricks? He's like, throw them away. I was like, hold up. Hold up. So we showed up there and we started ripping out the bricks from the front driveway. And he's like, yo, you can't rip those out. The construction guys need to be able to like put the wheelbarrows through. He's like, take all those bricks. So we had to put the bricks back, get the
Are
other
those
bricks.
bricks?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
bricks.
And we didn't get enough. So what we did was cut them in
that's why
half.
there's only one. That's why there's
That's
That's why there's only a couple walls of bricks. But yeah, I mean, we literally, I mean, everyone that's here that's involved, we all built this place because we didn't really have much money. We didn't want to invest a lot because we didn't know if it was going to go past 8 months. And sure enough, you know,
I remember sitting on a meeting, and you didn't know me at all, and I was like, "Yeah, I got a little bit of money," and you were like, "Okay."
I'll take it.
I remember I tried to invest too before Nick came in,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yo, I'm down to," but at that time, I was with my partner at the time.
He
It just
wasn't
didn't
feeling
work
it?
out.
Okay.
but I was definitely willing to.
Yeah, so we
Scrapped it together.
Yeah, and it worked, man. And I think people really enjoyed it. And I think the timing was right, and it wasn't even really like so much a strategy. It kind of just worked that way, and I think a lot of things happen with luck.
There
timing.
was a strategy.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I'm not gonna
The uniting of like
I'm not gonna
you and
downplay it.
Rose crowd.
The idea itself is
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah, yeah,
Of
yeah.
You and Rose crowd coming into one, I think was the perfect at the moment. Was
Totally.
the perfect like
And
cocktail for it.
I feel
you
like
know?
the same mood that I was feeling about nightclubs was kind of like the general consensus.
Yeah.
And I think when we opened this, it was kind of something fresh, new, and different, and it worked. You know what I mean? And I think it's crazy now that downtown and Wynwood and these different pockets, Little Haiti and Little Havana, all have like a chance now because Wynwood said like, yo, like something else can
Yeah.
be successful other than South Beach, and that shit blew up, and it gave us the opportunity to blow up.
Yep.
And now it's giving all these other things an opportunity to blow up. And it's kind of crazy now because now South Beach is kind of like really not even the
For
focus
nightlife, it's
for certain
for nightlife
people.
is like
It's a void.
it's rough.
Yeah, and it serves its purpose. You know, they're the people that want to come here and go nuts, and
Just
they
tourism.
do that. You know, is that the food?
Nah, hold up.
Oh, so yeah, I mean that's
Oh,
here we
shit.
are. That's it.
There you go.
Pancho.
Hi, I'm Pancho. I don't think I have much. I don't think this should go any further than this. This should be like chapter 1 and that's it. You and Raul,
Yeah, you
because you guys introed it. I might.
Well,
what
We
am I-
gotta keep going. We gotta edit it. We'll make it 2 episodes.
Yeah, we have right now.
Listen, we can just shoot more.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah,
just-
we should one do
yeah,
2
we'll
episodes.
do 2 episodes.
We'll do like me and Raul, and then we'll do
Okay.
then you guys.
Yeah.
All right, so I met Raul back in the day, back in like, so I've been doing parties since early 90s, and Kendall. I grew up in Kendall, and it was pretty much we used to do a lot of like what's very popular in the early '90s in Miami, which you call like open house parties. You would just do a flyer, pass it out all the high schools.
Which, by the way, when I got my name on a flyer for Privé with all these other dudes that we were talking about, I was like, yo, I made it. I made it, and then people were like, my name was on that shit, which back then was like the biggest thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like your name was on the flyer. I was like, damn, you know, like
You did it.
yeah, it was like the best thing ever. You know, I was like 18, 19 years old. I had my name on the flyer with these like OGs that have been doing it forever. And I was the last one on it, but I was like,
You made the list.
I'm with
So
these
good.
dudes, you know, like.
So I was doing like a bunch of house party stuff in Kendall, just really early on, like really fucking early on. I would say even middle school, high school, and then eventually from doing high school stuff and then graduating, and then meeting like Raul and then the crew that we had like a whole creative crew at the moment. We had a record label with Induce and Danny, which is how I met Pace back in like probably what 2001, 2001, right?
It was 99, 2000, I think.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I still remember the day that Danny was like, "Yo, I want to sign these guys from Cincinnati, 5Ds," and I was like, "Really?" And he played me like Blue Light Special, I think it was.
Yeah.
That's the name of the song, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Yo,
On
dope."
vinyl? Oh, he plays you with vinyl?
Yeah, the vinyl, and he's like, "Yo, I got this from blah blah blah," and he's like, "Yo, I want to sign these guys." I'm like, "Cool," and I heard the music, and I was like, "Oh shit, it's just dope." Not only that, it was just kind of like a big step for us too, because we were a label that were just kind of out of Miami and doing like Miami releases and stuff. And this is our first like signing of somebody that was like from out of town, and that's how we met Pace. And I think I have a feeling that's how Pace got introduced to Miami scene. Back then, Press used to work with us and do design for us, and him and Alvaro, Free Gums a little later on. Press was like the OG, first release of the label was Press on design, and he was like the creative director for us as well. And from then on, it was like my partner back then, Danny, and then Raul, I think hired Danny, and then Danny was working for Ruckus as well. So we had the whole Ruckus connection, and us just being like kids that wanted like records to play, like whether it was for like mixtapes or like radio show. I had a college radio show at the time, like around '99, for the FIU radio, and that's when it went FM. So I had like access to being able to get a bunch of records and a bunch of like shit, links with like record labels and stuff like that. So I had, from my high school and middle school days, I had experience of like running parties and setting shit up and being able to do like, you know, like these massive house parties that were like full productions with hooking up like tower speakers, and I just knew all the equipment side and like how to kind of really run a party from early on. So I had that experience of running shit. So when we did with Counterflow, like around 2000, in 2001, I think we ended up getting an office like on the beach, in the Bank of America building on 9th in Washington.
Of course.
So we had an office before the porn people came in and bought the whole building, I think. But
Like the corner.
Yeah.
The web date building.
no, in the Bank of America building.
But that was the porno guys.
No, but they
that
actually
across-
bought the Bank of America building
Oh,
as
they
well.
did?
Yeah.
Damn.
So they had offices like on the 5th floor, which Sharp Sound actually used to work accounting for them. So he used to be in the same building too. They had a bunch of accounting shit in that building for whatever. I guess because it was the bank building. I don't know why.
Because they were
Really.
making that much money.
Probably. I mean, at that point, that was the peak of like that whole Reality Kings and Bang Bros shit being like running Miami and making probably the most money ever. This motherfuckers is like, which is funny because I knew when that started, I knew all the original employees too. They were all like my friends from around. So, and then we had the record label, and we did a lot of like events, a lot of parties. We did like some weekly parties as well, like at the Marlin Hotel. We had this one party called Paid Attention that was like on Thursdays, and it was definitely like what you said, like being the anti-beach shit, like doing something on the beach, and it was like a totally different vibe.
What year was this?
This is probably like 2001. I want to say 2002, maybe even 2000. We're dealing with like, you know, Joe Galdo and I think Chris Blackwell at the time too. They still owned the Marlin. And that's when the Marlin had really cool shit. So they were all about like us doing whatever the fuck we wanted to, because they just wanted that cool, like different vibe of doing some creative, artistic, and music related. So we had a bunch of like performances. We had a bunch of shit there, like so many things that crossed around and fell in their lap from just being like the dudes that were doing this label out of Miami that we like did really well like in Europe and Japan, and critically acclaimed like artwork through like press and a lot of like Danny's direction as well. So we had all this like background of definitely having mad popularity and like doing cool shit on the beach and just doing cool shit, period. At the same time, that was when I started college, and that was like when Pop Life started at Piccadilly Garden, which was the party, you know. Before it was just a party, not like a company or like. So it started as a party, and Jake, I had met Jake like in college, and then Jake got introduced through us to the whole like Miami scene because he was from out of town and then from Boca, I think, at first originally.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he lived in Chile. That's how me and him clicked, because his mom's half Chilean. So I met him and he was like, "Yo, are you from Chile?" And that's kind of how we all like really clicked in the beginning.
Bond.
Yeah, and then Jake ended up like befriending like a lot of the Pop Life like dudes from just going to the party. We used to go to the party all the time. And then Induce ended up doing the side room, and then we did it as Counterflow, the side room, and then we did a lot of bookings with them. And then we worked a lot with Pop Life and with Aramis, and then eventually, like much later on, Jake became a part of Pop Life. But even with like Soho Lounge, like, you know, like in what now is the Design District, like then doing a bunch of shit there, like that's where you had like your main room was probably like indie rock shit, and then the side room was always like the hip hop room, you know?
Which like back then that area was like crackheads and tumbleweeds.
Yeah, and all of Midtown Mall was a train yard.
Yeah, it was a shut down old train. You know,
Yeah.
Midtown Mall, that's like one of the most contaminated properties.
I didn't know
before they
that.
started building it, like in the state.
What's Midtown Mall? Where they have the
Well,
good
Midtown,
boat?
yeah, where they have
Midtown,
Target,
Target
like
is-
all that.
Oh,
That
That was
used to be
that was
train
used to-
yard
Yeah,
station.
train yard, like it was
That
just,
was like,
remember the rumor back then was like, oh, they're gonna open an IKEA there, and we're mad hype. We're like, yo, first IKEA. But
finally I go to
I think it was
Ford
just a
Furniture.
rumor, but we were mad hype. We're like, damn, IKEA is hype. But yeah, and then after that, like I ended up like I was doing a lot of shit. Then, you know, part of what happened with the history of just music industry kind of went to shit. I mentioned the whole part of how we met, by the way, Pace.
You did? I mean, yeah. Whatever. Okay.
So, yeah, we ended up like doing like the label went down under. Music industry was going through like a big fucking transition from like analog to digital. We did a lot of vinyl business, and vinyl like pretty much like a lot of whole companies like manufacturers just shut down. Our distributors closed the doors. Just getting a phone call like, oh, by the way, your distributor just no longer exists, and we're like, okay, that's awesome. So I had to go back like to square one pretty much. I remember it was like a difficult time in my life in a way, because coming from the whole like having a label, doing really cool shit, to all of a sudden like square one, everybody went their way. You realize who your real friends are, who was just there because you were doing cool shit. So I had to just start all over, and I remember I had to like, I was still living with my parents at that time. And then my parents got separated, and then I had to get an apartment, and then I had to work a valet job because I had to just get money, and I was like, fuck, like the DJing at the moment was making enough money or whatever. So
throughout this whole time you were still DJing on the side.
I was still DJing. I always been DJing. That was like my first love, I guess you can say, with like how I got into even anything, even production or anything. And then from that, I ended up like just slowly my shit together, and I had all these relationships still from like all the record label stuff, and I started working a lot with Stone's Throw, my boy Havana Joe, and we started doing a lot of the shows early on when that whole generation of Stone's Throw of like Dame Funk, Mayor Hawthorne, even with J-Rock, where we brought them to Miami for the first time on the early tip, you know? And then that's when me and Joel started working more hand in hand, because I always worked with Joel for Chocolate Sundays when it started, like in probably 2000 or 99. And I was always a DJ, but then I started helping him with
Chocolate Sunday is what?
Chocolate Sundays was the party, like Miami staple, like
Sunday hip hop party.
yeah, Sunday hip hop party that started like in 99 or 2000, that ran for like 15 years. That was a Purdy Lounge, and it was the only thing going on a Sunday in Miami, period, pretty much. And it was like the shit, you know? And it started just a small, and then it grew into some bigger. So then when I started doing shit with Joel, it was just like me bringing all these like like additions to the party or to whatever, and I had all these contacts from bringing like artists. So then I booked all these things and they did really well, and he'll give me a cut of the shit, and then eventually he was like, yo, I have all these things going on, I gotta bounce, like would you want to be my partner? And then I started doing nightlife shit with Joel, like as far as like running parties, and I already had experience, but then I learned more about like bars and being able to read a room and like the other side of not DJing, you know what I'm saying? And then from there, Joel and I just really clicked at that moment, and for like 2 or 3 years we just did like really well. I learned a lot because when I was giving Chocolate Sundays, it was on a really big decline for the moment, so I had to bring it back up, and I learned so much from like reviving a fucking party, like having to deal with like at that time like the slow nights that were just not fun when the party used to be packed all the time, you know.
It's not easy.
And then when we brought it back, it was like cool, like I learned a bunch of shit, like we're cracking, we're fucking riding this wave, and then eventually that's kind of when I met you guys. And me and Raul always either worked together, either some capacity, or you know, we always cross paths like with press. Also, Adrian came in through Chocolate Sundays, like through the first gig, and I was the first person there that received him to like have him DJ, and that's how we created like a friendship and whatnot, you know. And then eventually you guys approached us because at the moment we had Chocolate Sundays and we had a bunch of shit going on, parties and stuff that we're doing around town. And then that's when Raul approached us to come here, and he's like, yo, we're opening this new spot, we want you to have like a Thursday party. And that's how we started doing like the Ice Cream Thursdays.
And right now, so you still do the Sunday, that's like a legendary night.
Yeah.
You do the Thursday here. I mean, you're doing a lot of things. What else?
I
what else
do
are you doing?
on Tuesdays. They do the Love Below. We started that like almost 3 years ago. It's gonna be 3 years in the summer. I'm still involved in Basement on Wednesdays for Jelly. It's been a very roller coaster of a ride, but I'm still in there. On Thursdays here. Fridays I just DJ, which I enjoy just being a DJ and not having to handle other shit. At Word Tavern for like 4 or 5 years already. And then Saturdays I try to have off. Sometimes I'll take some shit if it's fun. And then Sundays, that's a whole nother story, but we had, after Chocolate Sundays, me and my partner parted ways, and then Chocolate Sundays kind of ended up having more of a decline for a lot of reasons. A lot of it has to do with the beach also just having a crazy decline. And then I was asked to bring back something on a Sunday, and that's when I brought in like Sharp and Louie as my partners for the Sunday party. And it's been definitely a challenge, but it feels good to have something that's like with your friends and being able to build something. And it's been
Made You Look.
Yeah, it's called Made You Look, and that's been on the incline, going up slowly but surely. But it takes time, you know. And it's one of those things, like all those lessons learned. It's like nothing's ever constant. That's one thing. If you have a business that's doing always 100% amazing, it's just not real. It's like you're gonna have dips, you're gonna have ups and downs, you know. And I think even through my whole trajectory, like it's just unrealistic to think that everything's peachy, you know. And it takes a lot of fucking work. And I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it even with Sidebar. There's always like a story to be told about how things flow and how, you know.
Yeah, sometimes hurricanes come.
Sometimes hurricanes come.
Can't do nothing about it.
Long story.
No, I'm saying in every.
I started coming to Miami, and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. My name's Pace. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I started coming to Miami to hang with these guys. And
Well, you say you came before that though. I don't. What was before that?
So you told the story of like finding Danny playing you my record, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that record came out in '98. That's why I know it was '99.
Okay.
Because we did a follow-up record in '99, and that was when all of that happened. That's what,
You were an artist at the time.
Yeah.
So Pace used to be in a group called the 5Ds.
I was still am. We didn't break up.
Okay, you guys
We
still
didn't break
on
up.
a
Still-
hiatus.
Still together. It's a very long hiatus. Since I was 15 or 16, I was in a rap group called 5Ds. We put out our first record. When I say record, it was literally a 12-inch record. We put out our first record in 1998, or it might have been 99. And I was like, fuck, we made it, man. We put out a record, and it sold some copies. I think we sold like 8,000 copies of it.
Which one was that one?
Blue Light Special.
Okay, that was Blue Light Special. That was a dope
Yeah,
record.
at the time, that was, when we put it out,
Was that Fat Beats?
No, it was Land Speed.
Land Speed. That's
At,
what it was.
at the time, they were like, yeah, you guys will probably sell 3,000 copies, and I think we sold 8. So they were like, okay. So can you do another one? Sure. We turned another one in right after that. Did the same numbers. They were like, we want to do an album with you guys, and we were like, sure, whatever. So we cut a deal. I got a distribution deal with them, and we got to quit our jobs. We worked, me and my partner John, we worked at a sign company, and it was like we're trying to do music full time for like years, probably like 4 or 5 years at that point. We hustled, just like had 9 to 5s, hustled all our money together to build a studio. Did that, and then we finally put a record out. It did well, so we did a deal with a distribution company that enabled us to quit our jobs and like do music full time basically. And in the middle of that, they were like, "Hey, who's doing the artwork on your album covers?" And I was like, "Me." So they're like, "You want a job?" And I'm like, "What? Like, huh? What?" So they hired me to be an art director at the company, but the company was in Boston. I lived in Cincinnati. So long story short, I moved to Boston for a year, worked at Land Speed for a little bit.
Yeah, I know that part.
Yeah. so and it was like my learning experience in the music industry. I got to learn how a record label functions, how distribution functions, sales sheets. Like I learned the business from top to bottom. Like I thought I knew a lot, and until I got that job, and then I figured out I knew everything. My boss kind of took me under his wing, was like, you know, like made me feel like I was special, basically. And
Who was that, by the way?
Christian.
Christian.
Still,
Yeah, Christian's
still
coolest.
my good buddy. He comes down here all the time. So yeah, did that. Got a few other things outside of that to enable me. I left the country for the first time, also, and like got to see like that the world was larger than fucking Cincinnati, Ohio. You know what I'm saying? So we still hadn't put an album out yet, and that's where you come into the picture.
Yeah.
So the label you work for, they wanted to sign us. We didn't sign an exclusive deal with you guys, but we let you put out our record.
Yeah.
So you ended up putting out our first album, which came out in November 2001. I remember vividly because it was like right after 9/11, and but I had moved back to Cincinnati to finish the album. So I quit the job, moved back to Cincinnati. We finished the record. You guys put it out, and then I was coming to Miami all the time because the label was down here.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to be really cool with you guys. I met Raul, Press, fucking everybody. And then we did another few albums. In the middle of that, Ross, who's one of my best friends, is also from Cincinnati. He had moved to New York and went to college in New York, and he was a DJ, I was a DJ. I started DJing club in Cincinnati. I was a rapper, but like not really into rapping that much. I was always more into DJing. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to rap unless you're gonna pay me to rap. So I just like started focusing on DJing at some point. But Ross and I took a trip to Brazil in 2005, and him and my buddy Brent, and they kind of convinced me that I needed to leave Cincinnati because it's a fucking nowhere place in the grand scheme of things. But I was like a diehard, like, fuck no, like Cincinnati, like through and through, like representing the city.
Good
like,
grits, though.
Like good grits. Trying to bring the city up, like I'm never leaving. But Ross and Brent convinced me I needed to leave Cincinnati and move to New York. So I did, and I moved to New York in 2005. And Ross was like, yo, I got this apartment, like we should get this apartment together, it's opening up, like fuck where you're staying, like come live with me, like let's get this apartment. And I was like, cool. So I moved out of the place that I was living in, and Ross got us this apartment, but it fell through. And so he was like, well, I was homeless basically because the apartment that he got us fell through was next door to the apartment that he lived in. And he was like, well, you can just stay with me, like we have an extra bedroom, like you can just stay with me, like in the meantime.
Who's we? Him and his girls?
No, he lived with like 3 other dudes.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it was like a fucking skate rat hole. It was a nice loft, but like they converted it into a 4-bedroom loft. So I kind of like was crashing with him, but in the middle of me crashing with him, he was like, I got to go to Miami for like a few weeks for some work to DJ. And I was like, all right. He never came back. So
I think that's when
you
him.
met him. Yeah. He was crashing onto Donka's couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, I got to go to Miami for some work while we're waiting for this crib to open up. Like, basically, whoever was living there didn't move out when they were supposed to. And they ended up staying. So, like, our crib fell through. So I was staying at his house, and he was like, I got to go to Miami. He left and then never came back. So I kind of inherited his apartment from him in New York after he told me to fucking move there. So he was just like, I don't know when I'm coming back from Miami. Like, I don't know what's up with the apartment, blah, blah, blah. And then by that time, I was touring with another rap group, and like my life was crazy. So
Was Spank Rock?
yeah, that was like the end of 2005, beginning of 2006, and then I was pretty much on tour from 2006 until 2011.
I remember those days.
Yeah. On my own too, because my DJ career had kind of simultaneously taken off at the same time I was in these two other rap groups. So I kind of started doing more on my own as a solo person, DJ, performer, whatever. And then in the middle of that, I moved to LA, got in a relationship, got sick. The doctor told me I needed to stop drinking, and I was like I was on tour constantly, so my body clock was never like, I just didn't know where I was, and I was drunk all the time, and I got really sick, and the doctor was like, yo, like, you need to change your lifestyle, basically. So I decided to make some adjustments. I tried to like stay home more, like just DJ in LA, or like do trips like periodically, and my money I went from making for me a fuck ton of money to like not as much, and I was like, I gotta find like a middle ground inside of all this. So the girl I was dating at the time, we broke up, and Ross, who had by that time become like a big DJ in Miami, he ended up buying an apartment here. So when me and my girl were having problems, he was like, yo, I called him one day, like, I think me and my girl are breaking up. He was like, yo, move to Miami, and like
all things were solved.
Yeah.
Just move
He's
to
like,
Miami.
He's like, yo, move to. By that time, Ross had moved back to New York, but he owned an apartment here that was empty, that had all of his shit in it, and he didn't live in it for like
Ross coming through with the apartment
for like 2 years. And he was like, yo, move to Miami and like rent my place out from me. Just like pay me whatever you can pay me. Like, I don't give a shit. So I was like, all right. So me and my girl didn't break up at the time when he made the offer to me, but it was always in the back of my mind as like my exit strategy. So
I always got an apartment in Miami if I need it.
So probably a year later, my girl and I broke up. I lost my mind. I like took a sabbatical in the fucking Northern California mountains for a little while. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna move to Miami. And Ross was like, please move to Miami. Like take care of my shit, like look after my stuff. I need somebody there. I'm like, cool. So I made plans to move here, and I moved here Art Basel 2013. So the first week of December 2013, I flew here and booked a gig with Adrian for like Pharrell or some shit. So I got off the plane. I'm literally I've been a mountain man, like chopping wood in the mountains for like 4 months.
Damn, you
like,
literally chop wood?
Literally
That's
chop
hype,
wood, dude.
though.
I remember
That's a good story.
I remember like I lived in a teepee for 3 weeks.
Damn, Pace.
I lived in a tent for a month. Like I was wilding, but it was so clean. Like I needed it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good.
But like I was cooking by the fire. I was taking care of people. Like I was cooking breakfast for like crews every morning. Like I was like really I chopped wood for my friend. Like my friend had a ranch in Northern California. I chopped all the wood for him for the winter. Like
Damn.
shit was crazy. But I realized I got on the plane.
You're like Matt Swall too?
I was so in shape.
He's got the calluses for the DJing
I
too.
was
so
fucking,
he's
I was
going
fucking,
in.
yo, I
The
can't.
axe.
But when I got on the plane, I was like, fuck, I stink. Like I smelled like
Like a man.
like, yeah. I
Man
smelled
from
like
the bush.
Man in a
smelled
cave.
Like, I smelled like the dude, the lumberjack on the fucking brownie cover. So I was like, fuck. So I got off the plane and like literally went straight to like a DJ gig, and like the first person I saw, I was standing in line. The first person I saw was like P. Diddy, and I was like, where am I? Because I'm coming from the mountains and shit. So like
Mountain man to post house.
right. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I come and I'm doing this party with Adrian, and like jet lag, tired, whatever. We do the party, it all goes good, and I get here and I immediately remember why I love Miami, and I was like, I'm home. Like I saw all the women that were there, and I was just like, I'm fucking home. Like
That'll do it.
it was refreshing. So yeah, so
That'll do it.
I lived at Ross's place. I didn't really have any income coming in at the time. I was just like doing DJ gigs here and there sporadically. Paid him whatever I could pay him, and then I ended up moving in with Adrian, and that's when this sidebar thing kind of happened. Like right after I moved in with Adrian, he was like, "Yo, I think we're gonna open a bar," and I was like, "Word," and I got like a, you know, like I've been putting out records for a really long time. Sometimes you get publishing checks like out the blue, and
It'll
I
show up in the mail.
yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
they direct deposit.
Oh,
you
yeah.
better.
So you know, one day I was broke, and then the next day I wasn't. And
Do you know why? Was it any specific thing that just
yeah, man, well, I licensed the song. I licensed
movie or something? Or
No, I
sync?
licensed the song to Entourage like back in the day, and that shit went into reruns in Europe or something. Yeah, and then off
But
of
everybody
that,
out there is an artist. That's your forever money. You need to
Yeah.
make sure that shit is there. Like,
so, and then off of that licensing, I got another one for How to Make It in America. So I like
It's the same dude that did the music.
Scott Venner. Yeah,
That dude.
hook me up, bro.
Shout out.
Shout out to Scott. Came
Is that
through.
the Scott that's on like other songs?
Yeah.
So cool.
Just hook me up. Shout out to Scott. For real.
that's awesome. Damn, that's such a crazy fucking
Yeah.
moment. All of a sudden, you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I got money in the bank.
Yeah, it happens too. Like it's happened to me a couple times. Like one time.
You're like, wait, somebody fuck up. You're
Yo,
like, what?
one time I got like a $8,000 publishing check because I had a remix on some shit in Australia that was like a hit in Australia or something like out of the blue. I was just like, what the fuck? So yeah, so I got a little bit of money. Nick came over, who's over there. He was like, yo, we're gonna invest in this bar, bro. And I was like,
That was a good.
that was a good Nick. Yeah. And I was like, all right. And I think we all met, and I was like, yeah, I guess we're gonna do this. And then since we're here, like talking about it, full disclosure, I invested to get myself a job. So I took over Friday nights.
Well, no, it was crazy because.
Well, let me invest and then get a job.
Rewind, because I got to know Nick and Pace because they invested in the bar, and it was all hands on deck. Everybody was helping, everybody was contributing, and Press was in charge of doing the
art,
the original branding and the art.
But he moved away.
And Pace is like, yeah,
I can do it.
I
I'm a designer.
And hearing the story, like he has a history of doing that, but he's like, yeah, I could do that. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. But even before that, we were doing a soft opening on Halloween, which everybody said we weren't going to open, but we opened, had a little Halloween party, and I go to Raul, and of course Raul was like the go-to guy as far as DJs, in which we all know a ton of DJs, and you guys are DJs.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, fuck, we're going to open tonight. Who's in the DJs? He's like, oh, we'll just get Pace to DJ. I was like, wait, Pace DJs? I didn't know.
Well, I thought he was an investor and designer, but he also DJ.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him, but he was around. He helped out, put in money, and I was like, all right. Needless to say, that night was incredible. I think we're all just hyped that
we were opening.
That we opened. And
Yeah.
I mean, we were hanging curtains at the last minute and all that stuff, and Pace tore it up, and I was like, yo, damn, I wasn't expecting that.
No, you looked at me and you were like, how did I not know this?
Yeah,
And
I
I was
swear
like,
to God.
I don't know. How did you not know this?
Yeah, but it was
Here's
cool.
my
I mean,
rap demo, by the way.
obviously, we all built a relationship as the bar progressed. But
Well, I skipped the part where when I moved here, I didn't have anything going on, and Raul and Adrian offered me to be the second resident DJ at Peach Fuzz. So when I moved here, they were like, Adrian, like Peach Fuzz had kind of apexed a little bit, and Adrian was like, I don't know if I want to do it every week.
I
Like
remember,
we
yeah.
kind of need new blood, and like you're here, and like over the years I had played Peach Fuzz a whole bunch of times. Like I would come to Miami, like I told you I was trying to stay in LA, but I would come to Miami just to do Peach Fuzz and then do like a couple other clubs a weekend and like make a little bit of money and then go back home. So I would do that probably like every 4 or 5 months. And in the middle of that happening, I should mention that Press from Peach Fuzz, he moved in with me in LA. So he was my roommate. So he was kind of like,
you guys are like commingling.
yeah. Well, I had we call it the Bird's Nest. I had a studio I had a 3-floor loft. On the 3rd floor, I had a bird's nest. That was my studio for my music. And Press was moving to LA. He needed a place to stay. And my rent was astronomical. And it was me and my girl. And we were kind of like struggling to pay it. So I was like, dude, just give me like whatever you can give me. Give me a few $100s a month and you can have my studio. So he moved in with me for a while. And in the middle of him living with me, he was like, yo, you should go play Peach Fuzz. Like you want to make some money, like just go to Miami and play Peach Fuzz. So I would do that like periodically. And when I moved here, they were like, yo, like you should kind of like be the other Peach Fuzz guy. So I was the other Peach Fuzz guy until we opened Sidebar. And then
You're a sidebar.
now I switched from doing Peach Fuzz on Fridays, and now I'm the Sidebar guy on Fridays.
Yeah.
So
Plus, you do a lot of the design and
I'm art department,
yeah.
I'm marketing, and I'm
He restocks the
Social
water.
media.
yeah.
Social media.
I'm the MacGyver of Sidebar.
Yeah.
Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it.
Well, I thought Viejo was in there.
I think everyone.
He's the Cuban MacGyver.
I think everyone does.
He's the Cuban MacGyver. Damn, you gotta do one with Viejo on one of these podcasts. With the translation in the bottom, everything. All the quotables, like his stories and quotables would be the best.
So that was me. That was like 15 minutes. I try to keep it in tight.
That was good though.
Yeah, we'll talk about Japan and touring and all that stuff on the next one.
Yeah.
I remember when I first met well, not for one of the times I went to Cincinnati for I think Scribble Jam, and Pace.
Oh, I didn't tell
me.
I didn't tell a Scribble Jam story.
Yeah, you telling me about like, yo man, I go to Japan, man. So I can make mad money in Japan. It's like I mean, over like I forgot what it was. At the moment it was like
dumb,
crazy amount of. It was like
that's what I was
made
telling
like $80K just of Japan this year.
I was
like,
so proud.
What the fuck? I'm like, yo,
I was so proud of
$80K.
that.
I've never seen $80K in my life.
I know,
like,
we were
this
like-
motherfucker talking about just Japan. I
like-
made like $80K in Japan just this year, going back and forth. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
man?
we were like 20. I was feeling myself, man. We were like 20, whatever.
And I must say,
It's the same way
when we
I was.
released,
In the
when we
club at
released,
18,
when we released the 5D's album and the Japan release of the album,
Yeah, with
there was
the
a line
separation.
on the block, and the sales are more than the Jay-Z release of that, whatever that. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
It was like I mean,
That's
back
right.
then you like looked at
Yeah.
scans or whatever. But in Japan, I guess Jay-Z wasn't that big either way. But
No, he
we were
wasn't.
all like hyper, like yeah, 5D's did better than fucking
We beat
first
Jay-Z.
week than Jay-Z did. We're like mad hype and shit.
That's true.
But 5D's is really big in Japan too, so.
Yeah, still
We did
go there.
really well in Japan with like
Still go
all the
there.
releases.
It's 20 years later. I still go there. I just
Yeah.
got back.
And Fat John ended up doing shit for like Cowboy Bebop, right?
Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Shampoo, and like a bunch of like soundtrack shit. He was the producer for 5D's and rapper as well.
So I think, out of Pace.